Welcome back to the Ohio Farm Bureau podcast. I'm Ty Higgins. Moving machinery and equipment like sprayers, combines, grain augers around the farmstead or on a roadway in the presence of power lines is pretty common practice. Each year in the U.S., 62 farmers or farm workers are electrocuted. And in many of those cases, contact between machinery and an overhead power line or utility pole is the cause. The news of a farmer's electrocution inspired our next guest to start ShockAvoid, a provider of high voltage proximity alarms to help farmers and crop protection applicators steer clear of dangerous electrical hazards. Welcome to the Ohio Farm Bureau podcast, Mark McLaren. Good to see you.
Great talking to you today, Ty. Appreciate the invitation.
What is ShockAvoid and how does it work?
Excellent question. Just very quickly, the technology actually has been around for 20 years or better, been more in the electrical transmission and construction industries. Of course, and as you've already alluded to, agriculture, we all know, is one of the top danger occupations in the nation. We all kind of take that, well, that comes with the territory, I understand. But the incident that you commented about started my wheels rolling, and basically was somebody's got to do something about this. And after a year or so, had some friends and so on I was talking with. Nobody did anything. Guess I'd better be the person. What the equipment does is power lines, and we're all pretty well familiar with high voltage power lines. They do put out an electrical field around them, depending on how many volts and amps and so on are going through any specific line. That field can be anywhere from 5-10 feet all the way up to a couple hundred feet. What we can do is, with the equipment we're using, is detect as we're approaching those lines, notify the driver of the equipment, whether it be in the cab of a sprayer or in a tractor, combine, what have you, that he's getting closer, and then have a critical point where we say, hey, you're in a danger zone here. Notifies both utilizing a touch screen that has a color display, shows basically analog meters that show how close the proximity is or within the danger zone, and also notifies people on the ground with an exterior siren and strobe light, so that people on the ground that may be approaching the machine are warned to stay away from it. Ultimate goal is to cut out on deaths and cut out on damage to equipment, damage to power lines. But very definitely, the first thing that spawned it was power lines are unforgiving. If you make contact, it is very seldom that you're ever going to walk away alive. And
you mentioned this technology is being used for a couple of decades in other industries, but as you know, agriculture is always a different dog. There are different challenges. So what are some of those unique challenges that agriculture poses to this type of technology?
Yeah, excellent question. The actual original technology, generally speaking, it has been a truck or a crane that is actually more stationary and raising a boom up, or the crane is moving its arm, and so you're only talking feet of movement. You're talking, generally speaking, in a environment that is devoid of chemicals and fertilizers. And what we have, of course, in agriculture is you're coming up toward the end of a field. You've got a boom. You may have a tillage piece, may have a combine that is moving several miles an hour, getting in a changing environment all the time. And we have to adapt the equipment both in performance so that it's resistant to the environmental conditions that agriculture throws at it. Also have to adapt the programs and the sensing such that, hey, we can handle hey, it's moving, and how quick do we need to be informing that operator that you're getting too close, and then what sort of time does that operator have to react to that? And that's one of the big things. Just a few seconds can make a tremendous difference. That's one of the areas that we looked at, was that we'd get stories where somebody'd see a glint in a mirror or something like that and put the foot on the brake or whatever. Golly, just 1 or 2 seconds, and that's the difference between night and day. It can be the difference between life and death. So that's what
Yeah,
we're buying.
really a great risk management tool, and that's why it caught the eye of Nationwide, and it has allowed you guys to form a partnership where they have spotlighted your ShockAvoid technology on their Ag Insight Center at aginsightcenter.com. Talk about that relationship and how that started.
Oh, that's an excellent question. We introduced ourselves a couple of years ago at a show called MAGI, the Midwest Ag Industries Expo, which is held by the Illinois Fertilizer and Chemical Association here in Illinois. It's got some similarities to your Farm Science Review. I don't think it's as large as the Farm Science Review, but it's focused primarily on fertilizer applicators, crop protection companies, and Nationwide. I believe it was Vincente Rico from Nationwide that stopped by our booth the very first year, and we just had a good conversation and so on. And I think he took it back to Nationwide, and they did some talking. Over the time, the Nationwide personnel and organization have continued to work with us, monitoring things and promoting our product very well. And Trudy, my wife, and I were invited out to their first Ag Expo back last year out in Iowa, and had a great time out there. Got to expose what we're doing to literally hundreds of Nationwide people, so that they could at least start to get their head wrapped around what we're doing, and honestly, kind of the simplicity of it, but also the major impact it could have.
How can farmers learn more about ShockAvoid, and really, if they wanted to get started, how do they go about doing that?
Excellent question. And I will first comment that I've said fertilizer chemical and all that sort of stuff, fertilizer dealers, that's where we have been focused on in our research to get this product so that it is viable in agriculture, and agriculture with a capital A across the board. But farmers can contact or look at us by stopping by our, or anyone can look at us by stopping out by our internet location at shockavoid.com. That's just one word, shockavoid.com, and can get the lowdown, and also can contact us. We absolutely know and see and realize that many of the 62 people that are killed annually are farmers. And we know the impact that has on farms. We know the impact that has on fertilizer dealers. And we want to help mitigate that and reduce those deaths over time. And I'm very confident we will do that. So anyhow, shockavoid.com is the best place to make that initial contact. And yes, we're very open to getting these units onto combines or onto tillage equipment. We do have options that can do all of that. Trucks with grain, with augers for either grain or feed, things of that nature. Very, very adaptable to that.
You mentioned how simplistic this technology is, but boy, is it ever so important and can be utilized on a wide variety of ways in agriculture. ShockAvoid.com, again, the website. Mark McLaren is the founder of the company. You can also visit Nationwide's Ag Insight Center at aginsightcenter.com for more research, resources, expert tips on trending topics to help you run a successful business and maintain the safety of your operation. Mark, really appreciate your time. Great idea here, and glad to get the word out. Thanks so much.
Been my pleasure. Thank you so much, Ty.